Okay, welcome to the second episode of Code Play. I'm Ricardo. I'm a software engineer. I'm from Portugal, Lisbon. I moved to Ireland about 5 years ago. I've been working mostly with .NET technologies for the past 10 years or so. And I did something before with Page, PHP, and some stuff back in the day. And I have with me Bart Kooijmans. Do you want to talk about yourself a bit?
Yeah, hi, I'm Bart Kooijmans. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm a software engineer for about 15 years now. I started and still am in the Microsoft stack. And the last months, I've been working in the TypeScript Node.js stack, and I learned some things in it, which I would like to share today.
Awesome. Let's see it.
Yeah, so TypeScript is a superset on JavaScript, and there's lots of features in it, such as testing, which you might know from .NET or something. So there's testing in TypeScript as well, and there's lots of different testing libraries. And today I would like to talk about Jest, which is the one I used, which I think there are more, but I don't know that come to mind. Jest is like everything in .NET you have the NuGet packages. In TypeScript you have Node.js packages, and they are going into the package JSON. So if you're using Jest, you're going to install the packages that, well, some Jest, more Jest, more Jest, lots of packages with Jest that you're installing, and then you configure Jest in a separate config file, which says just process all the files that end in a TS or a JS, and don't process anything in the node modules. You just ignore that. Fun thing about Jest is you can collect coverages from it. It will end up in a Cobertura format or a JUnit format, which can be used in a CI/CD pipeline, the CI part then of that CI/CD. You can configure thresholds such that if you're not having a coverage of exactly 100%, so everything is covered, then the build will fail, or the pipeline will fail, the test part will fail, the build will succeed. You can configure it to be have a lower threshold, such that you can allow for some uncovered tests. 100% is in the practice. I think it's very difficult to maintain. So I have configured a script that says if you run npm run test, then Jest is run. And you see that there are some test files in it over here. I used the official Jest is of Facebook, and there are official libraries or Hello World examples which I used for this one, and
It's
I changed it a little bit.
it's a question that I was hoping to ask you. So I'm usually working with Carmen Jasmine because I'm working with Angular, so it's a bit different. It's bundled with Carmen Jasmine, not with Jest. So I'm really looking forward to see how to use Jest. And the other thing that I wanted to ask was how do you set up this example? Do you have to download all of those packages independently? Is there like a startup project, or is it you just can download one of those demos or something from Jest, and then you can start it?
Now, what I did is I went to GitHub, and there is lots of tests over here. So if I go one example up, there's lots
Okay.
of examples of doing something with Jest on a
I
TypeScript
even have
base.
examples for Angular, React, and
So
so
I went
forth.
into the TypeScript, and this is just what I downloaded. It has a sum, it has a sub, it has a memory and a calculator. And in this case, everything is bundled into the tests folder. But in the project which I worked on, they recommended not doing that and just putting it side by side. So as a
Yeah.
Microsoft developer, I'm used to having test projects, just like here. Every test is bundled with all the other tests.
I also like to have the tests side by side with the
so
code.
in this demo, I put them side by side. It
Yeah.
has some advantages, but if you have a very big solution, I think the separation works better. But in this case, you can see that calc has a test, sub has a test, sum has a test, but memory does not have a test. So there's some coverage implied over here. So when I run the test in the terminal, npm run tests, then you'll see that 3 files are succeeded, but the test actually failed. There's an error. And that is because memory isn't tested at all, and the coverage of 100% is not met. So I can tweak the threshold to be below 80 or 50, such that
that's one way to solve the problem. The other one is to write the tests.
Yeah, you can write the test. Yeah, just don't lower the threshold, but 100% might be too much. Just lower it to 90 and then still isn't met. But just write the test. Exactly. So your question was, how do I configure this? Well, I started with this, and I worked from there. So everything I needed was already installed. There's Jest, and there's more Jest. Let's see where we were going. So we have tests, and they are working well. So how does that look like? I saw some other testing libraries in TypeScript, and they actually look the same for me. I don't see any differences. So this is one simple function. It just sums 2 numbers together. And if you test it, you import the sum function. And you say, this is a test method with a description. And when it is executed, you say, I expect the actual value to be expected value.
Oops.
And this syntax I see a lot in the TypeScript testing library. So maybe for you this isn't much surprise.
No. I think Jest was developed over Jasmine, so it's like an improved version or tailored to Facebook's needs of Jasmine. So it's very similar, and it actually I think also supports Jasmine syntax. So I think if you replace test with it still works, and it is how Jasmine works.
I like it better because it's more descriptive, but in the calculated tests, they have a group of describe which tests are in this group, and then but that's just a synonym for test. You're testing.
Yeah. I think it follows the behavior-driven approach, and you read it like it. Actually, I use should, but it's like it should return a result from subtract. In your case, it returns a result from subtract. So it describes the behavior of the test that you are, or the behavior that you are expecting to test in this test.
And as a good testing practice, you'll see the arrange act assert over here. So there's an arrange to prepare the steps, actually do the execution, the act, and then assert is the expectations management. I like the separation of the arrange act assert.
I do the same. I see also that you have some mocks set up there.
Yeah, so a good testing library does some mocking, preferably automatically. So Jest can say, I would like to mock the sum, the sub, the memory. It just auto mocking every function in it. You can tweak that as well, but now it does. It mocks the sub, the subtract for every execution. Oh, it just once, but for when you execute it, just hard code it, return it with 0. Don't actually run the actual sub. So when I call it with a subtract of 2 and 2, it will not call the sub, it will return the hard-coded 0, which works with memories as well. But then you can assert certain stuff. You can assert that the outcome is okay, so that it actually didn't make a mistake over there. It should be called with these parameters. And over here, you can even create a mock implementation. So here you say this is the return value, but you can also provide a callback function. If this is implemented or called, then do this with this method. And what I'd like most about the mock implementations is you can do assertions there as well. Because if you, for example, use the Elasticsearch JavaScript or TypeScript library, they have mocking in the HTTP layer. So everything is the same, except for when you're calling an HTTP call, then something needs to be expected. So now you can mock and you can hard-code it, hard-coded in a hard-coded manner. You can return some stuff, but you can also say, I expect the assertion to be 2 over here, which makes it very powerful. So you're not bundling all the assertions over here at the end, but yeah, you have that over here as well. This is well, the basics of testing. Yeah. So now in Visual Studio Code, now we're here. I'm using the terminal. I'm doing npm run, and then, well, it runs. That can be tedious. I can't right click here. I can do anything with this. When I have a Visual Studio full-blown experience, so not a Visual Studio Code, I'm used to having a test explorer, and I'm used to seeing test check marks at every test. So that's where the marketplace of Visual Studio Code comes in place. There are great stuff. So there's a Jest plugin. There's a Test Explorer UI, so you can have an extra tab, and you can even enable Jest to be shown in that tab. So it works instantly, the enable of such thing. So now I have a testing tab over here, which shows every test that I did. So these 3 tests are now shown over here, and I can run all tests in this UI instead of doing it in the terminal. Another cool feature of this is that when I open a test file, I have now UIs over here showing that it passed. There's a check mark. I can run it. I can debug it, which I couldn't do it before. So now I can just run this once. I'm really loving this experience with Visual Studio Code. It makes it more of a real code editor instead of a Notepad++ competitor.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been using also with this extension is the debug. Sometimes someone might say that if you do TDD, you don't need to debug. I don't want to get into that discussion, but sometimes there's something on my logic or something that I'm missing, and I need to go step by step. And you can set the debugger manually and get it to work and debug the tests. But I think that this experience is it's much user friendly. So when I want to debug particular test, I just set a breakpoint anywhere, click debug, and immediately I'm there. And this is really cool.
Yeah, my first experience with TypeScript was just like I did 15 years ago. It's just console log got here, console
like
log
you did
got
with
here.
JavaScript.
Yeah, and then I learned that there are more sophisticated features.
You would be surprised to know that loads of people still use that technique, and the worst part of it, it's not the technique, I also use it a lot, is that people forget to remove the console.log, and then it gets ends up on the repo, and so all of a sudden it's in production and it's logging loads of information that we shouldn't be logging or the user shouldn't know about.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for that. That's what I would like to show on Jest. Do you have any questions? Did I forget something to show?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. Maybe on the next episode, I'll follow the same example, but do it with Jasmine, and maybe we can see the differences, or we can try to do something like that. So this is it's always good to know more about test frameworks and how to write tests.
Yeah.
So
Another
this
follow-up
was great.
might be to do the CI integration as well. So I have a JUnit file now, which is a format that you can use in any CI pipeline. And I also have a cobertura coverage file, which can be used as well in any CI/CD pipeline.
Okay,
Maybe
that
we can look into
looks
that as
great.
well.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
so that
awesome.
was Jest for now. Thank you for watching.
See you for the next episode. Bye.
Bye.